Good morning and welcome to today's hearing on fire and emergency management. At no point will anybody approach the dais at today's hearing. Chair, you may begin.
Good morning and welcome to this hearing on the Committee on Fire and Emergency Management. I am Chairperson Joanne Ariola. I would like to recognize that we have been joined by Council members Lynn Schulman and Susan Zhuang. Today, the committee will be examining a timely and important topic related to building and fire safety, the process and inspections of New York City's temporary certificates of occupancy. Pursuant to the New York City Building Code, no building shall be occupied or used in whole or in part unless there is a certificate of occupancy issued certifying that such building conforms substantially to the approved construction documents and the provisions of the Building Code and other applicable laws and rules. This requirement is an essential safeguard to ensuring that buildings constructed and occupied in New York City meet the rigorous standards by the New York City Buildings Department, fire and electrical codes, vital provisions that keep New Yorkers safe. Perhaps reflecting a pragmatic approach of ensuring flexibility in the construction and inspection process, the Building Code further authorizes the Department of Buildings to issue temporary certificates of occupancy before the completion of work covered by a permit, provided that the subject portion or portions of the building may be occupied and maintained in a manner that will not endanger the public safety, health, or welfare of those inhabiting it or surrounding it. Controversies surrounding this mayoral administration, including allegations of impropriety relating to fire safety inspections and the issuance of temporary certificates and the occupancy at a recently constructed Turkish house in Midtown Manhattan, has brought increased scrutiny to the inspections conducted by Fire and the Buildings Department and how the agencies prioritize public safety before allowing buildings to open with outstanding safety issues. Unfortunately, it appears there are broader issues that have been uncovered by a recent audit conducted by the city's comptroller. To review the widespread use of temporary certificates of occupancy, including identifying 637 office buildings currently without a valid final certificate of occupancy. According to review, on average, those buildings have been without city approval for 3.5 years, with some having failed to obtain a valid certificate for more than 12 years. 88 of those buildings were found to have immediate hazardous violations, the majority of which were due to dangerous facade conditions. These findings call into serious question the Department of Buildings' approach to inspecting and approving occupancy of new construction and raises doubts regarding the extent which we can rely on the city's use of temporary certificates of occupancy in circumstances where public safety is threatened. With that said, we look forward to hearing testimony from the administration on the topic and explore how the council can continue its work of ensuring city agencies prioritize the safety of all New Yorkers. I will now turn to our committee counsel and have him read the affirmation for all individuals from the administration who will be providing testimony here today.
Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you, Chair. We'll be hearing from the Fire Department and the Buildings Department today. From the Fire Department, we'll have Don Nguyen, the General Counsel, and we'll have Thomas Carrow, the Chief of Fire Prevention. From DOB, we'll have Gus Sarakis, the Deputy Commissioner of Development and Technical Affairs at DOB, and Guillermo Patino, who's the Deputy Commissioner for Policy and Legal Affairs at DOB. Can all the following just raise your right hand and just affirm the following? Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to answer honestly to council member questions? Seeing you all affirm that, you may go ahead. Thank you so much.
Who wants to go first?
I'll take that. Thanks. Good morning, Chair Ariola and members of the Committee on Fire and Emergency Management. I am Gus Sarakis, Deputy Commissioner for Development and Technical Affairs at the New York City Department of Buildings. I am joined by Guillermo Patino, Deputy Commissioner for Policy and Legal Affairs at the Department, as well as Thomas Carreo, Chief of Fire Prevention, and Don Nguyen, Deputy Commissioner for Legal Affairs and General Counsel from the New York City Fire Department. We're pleased to testify before the committee regarding the department's role in issuing certificates of occupancy. The department is responsible for issuing certificates of occupancy, including temporary certificates of occupancy for buildings under its jurisdiction. Such buildings or parts thereof may not be occupied until the buildings department issues a temporary or final certificate of occupancy. While a final C of O does not expire, an alteration to an existing building could require that a new certificate of occupancy be issued. For example, such alteration changes the occupancy group or zoning use group of the building. It should also be noted that buildings built before 1938 do not require a certificate of occupancy unless they later perform alterations that would change their use, egress, or occupancy. Last fiscal year, the department issued approximately 15,000 final and initial temporary certificates of occupancy. In order to qualify for a final certificate of occupancy, a registered design professional must certify that the building has been built or altered in accordance with the department-approved plans, and the department must perform an inspection to confirm that the building has been built or altered in accordance with such plans. Specifically, in order for a final certificate of occupancy to be issued for a building owner must apply for such certificate of occupancy. Final construction, plumbing, and electrical inspections must be completed. Compliance with the approved pavement plan must be demonstrated. Work associated with sanitary stormwater drainage must be completed. A fire protection plan must be filed and accepted. And certificates of compliance for certain service equipment, including air conditioning and ventilation systems, elevators, boilers, must have been issued by the department. As mentioned earlier, the department may also issue temporary certificates of occupancy. Temporary certificates of occupancy may be issued where there are outstanding issues that must be resolved before a final certificate of occupancy can be issued. Temporary certificates of occupancy generally expire 90 days after issuance and may be renewed given that temporary certificates of occupancy expire. It is not uncommon for a building's temporary certificate of occupancy to lapse while a building owner takes steps to renew it, which may include responding to issues raised by the department concerning a renewal application. From the department's perspective, an expired temporary certificate of occupancy is considered an administrative issue and does not necessarily indicate that a building has become unsafe. As such, the department does not vacate a building only because a temporary certificate of occupancy has expired. Members of the public are encouraged to report any concerns regarding a building to 311 so that the department can investigate such concerns and take appropriate action. In addition to the requirements outlined above, there may be additional requirements that must be met in order for a building to qualify for a certificate of occupancy. Such requirements are project-specific. The department has created a certificate of occupancy worksheet to help building owners and their design professionals determine what requirements they must meet in order to qualify for a certificate of occupancy, which may include approvals from other agencies. For example, certain buildings must have their fire protection plans, which outline their fire safety systems and features, approved by the New York City Fire Department before the department may issue a final certificate of occupancy. Additionally, there could be relevant approvals needed from the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, the Landmarks Preservation Commission, the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, and other agencies. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. We welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. So, you say as the department does not vacate a building only because a temporary certificate of occupancy has expired. You mentioned that 311 notifies you. Are there any other measures in place besides 311 that would trigger you to send out an inspector to find out? Like, is there any way you're notified that a certificate of occupancy has expired, an inspection needs to be done again, besides 311? Is there any other measure in place that would let you know that you had to send inspectors to Building A?
Thank you for the question. If I understand it correctly, I think the idea of the C of O process that we have in place right now has been digitized, which is where we're able to get all of these statistics. In the past, the C of O was a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Even the digital versions that you see on our website, all of our C of Os, I think, with the exception of some that may have been misidentified from older records, are scanned and uploaded onto the individual building's property profile. As we have moved into the digital age, as applications are filed for new C of Os, we are issuing them digitally, both final COs as well as temporary COs, and the expiration dates is a digital date, has a digital date and timestamp on that record. So we do have that information. From the standpoint of how we perform our inspections, there's two forms of inspections. One would be the customer requested inspection, that they are ready for completed construction or something related to an enforcement action. From the enforcement side, we don't regularly just visit a building because of an expired TCO. That in and of itself doesn't ring as an immediate safety concern. Things such as, no report filed for a facade, an incident related to a car into building. We'll get referrals from other agencies for hazardous conditions. Those would be other ways that we would go besides the traditional 311 complaints as to how we would arrive at a building.
So if a temporary C of O has expired and no one calls 311 to report that, or no one or the building owner doesn't reapply for a renewal, then you don't have any mechanism in place to then go out. It could continue to be open with just a temporary C of O, which has expired.
That's correct. That does happen. I think there are other mechanisms that push the certificate of occupancy into the forefront and push owners to renew their certificate of occupancy. For instance, if you are looking to rent to tenants, they will ask for a certificate of occupancy, which pushes the owner of the building to renew. Sales of the property, lending, other agency licensure process. So for instance, the Department of Health, if you're looking for childcare, will always be asking for a C of O. The State Liquor Authority asks not only for a certificate of occupancy, but also then a letter of no objection from the Department of Buildings that the use is actually permissible in that space. So it's in the owner's best interest for other reasons beyond just the buildings department wants it from that standpoint. And I think it represents beyond the safety of the construction. The C of O itself also represents the other legal rights that come with the property, the other legal authority there. So by itself, it's not necessarily a safety issue that the TCO is expired. You kind of got to look at the whole big picture of that from that standpoint of what are the safety concerns that come with the building in and of itself.
But it would still be able to operate depending on let's say it's not a restaurant, or it's not looking for any type of liquor license or anything like that. I just think that that's kind of leaving an open end for disaster if you don't have another checkpoint in place besides someone making a complaint or 311. So maybe that's just something that you could work on. Which aspects of an application for a temporary certificate of occupancy are ultimately discretionary, and which aspects are required, and does it vary by building status, building class?
Very good question. I think these are, building COs are a pretty complicated matter in and of itself. They go through multiple layers of review at DOB, as well as with other agencies as well. But the process for applying for a C of O gets multiple levels of review. First, we have a team of project advocates who review the application for the certificate of occupancy to compare what's coming forward from the owner's design team and contractors as far as what do they claim that they've completed at that stage. We have, at that point in time, have sent out inspectors to sign off on construction, plumbing, and fire sprinkler systems, maybe electrical as well at that point in time, boilers. If not, we will be sending them back to the drawing board for those things. We are looking for the safe measures being in place for folks to be able to come in and occupy. So when a TCO expires, for instance, it could be because there are administrative issues associated with the TCO. For instance, at some point in time, once a building is issued a TCO, they enter into all of our compliance filings. So that means they enter into our facade inspection program. They enter into our elevator inspection program, the boiler inspection program. They need to provide their energy grade. They need to provide their local law 97 reports. The gas piping inspections, all of those inspections get triggered, and if they miss a cycle there, they end up with violations, for instance, that have to be resolved before a TCO will be renewed. As far as the specific items that have to be provided, we've put together one would be the required items listed under the specific application, but then we have a CO worksheet that we have put together where we describe what are the various items that we are looking for a final CO or a TCO, and what we feel are the acceptable options for submission at a given stage. And we describe, depending on the item, what is necessary at that point. This typically comes in from an architect or engineer with different attestations and affidavits depending on the item. So for instance, the building may or may not require a fire alarm. That's where we start getting involved with our colleagues at the fire department. There may be landmark issues. That's where we start getting involved with our colleagues, or continue working with our colleagues at landmarks from that standpoint.
Right. I just want to make mention that we've been joined by Councilmember Kevin Riley. And this is what you just said, this is all part of a written policy for the DOB.
Yes.
That you follow. And what is the DOB's practice for following up with buildings? Well, I guess you answered that in the first question, right? So we're gonna move on from there. But those policies are all, those practices are also written in where it comes from 311. It's sticking in my throat a little bit because, I mean, we get complaints in our office. We tell them to, notify 311, then we work with our borough commissioner, and borough commissioners have been very, very easy to work with. I want to tell you, I just want to say that, and especially in my case, I can speak to ours, but it's just, I think that there needs to be more of a follow-up with your inspectors. So is it a matter of that you don't have the inspectors to go out to do this? Because you noted that there were more TCOs that had expired in Manhattan. Was that because of a lack of inspectors to go out to the 5 boroughs? Is that something that we as a body should start to look at to fill lines?
I think from the standpoint of, does the bigger picture, does DOB need more inspectors? I would, I'll selfishly say absolutely yes, because I think we do very important work. I really believe in the mission and the work of the agency, and obviously our colleagues at Fire and the other safety agencies. I think definitely the more inspectors we have, the more issues we will be able to head off. I think one of the things that the City Council has done from an enforcement standpoint is support our efforts at proactive enforcement, where we are looking at predictive analytics and using the data that we have. So I mentioned that our C of O process is now digital. That's giving us very good data points that we never had before. So we've had most of our buildings, we have 1.1 million buildings in the city of New York. I think 3/4 of them were built before 1938. So it's before the requirement to actually have a C of O. We issued 15,000 updated C of Os and temporary COs, but it's to a small fraction of the buildings that we deal with on a regular basis. We have a lot of information from legacy databases that we can leverage and utilize, and I think an expired CO could be one of them, but I don't know that if it by itself is a leading indicator of safety matters. So lack of safety compliance filings. Are you regularly skipping the boiler filings? Are you regularly skipping the elevator filings? Do you have a lack of maintenance on your property where there are a number of 311 complaints? We have the ability to do more, the more staff you give us. And I think a CO, I'm not dismissing that a CO is important by all means. I think it is, but with 1.1 million buildings in our purview, I don't know that we'll be able to get everywhere all at once. And I think an expired CO could be a data point that we look at to see, is it an indicator of a future issue as part of this? I think that could be something that we look into, obviously, from that standpoint. It's obviously something that we want owners to work through, but we can definitely write violations if we see folks occupying with an expired CO or contrary to their CO. The grounds for a vacate, I think, are much higher. I think the ability of the department is spelled out when it comes to vacates as to what are the specific reasons for imminent life and health that we would put people out of their building, their home possibly. But you could see that one of the reasons a CO might expire is because the ground floor tenant of a condo building, for instance, who's a commercial tenant, has run into issues that have open violations that could prevent the building CO from being renewed and it would be for the entire structure. The CO is for the entire building. We're saying that the building substantially complies with code and zoning at that point in time. If the ground floor tenant has an open violation, has no relation to any of the residential tenants above, that would keep us from renewing the CO until that is resolved. Who financially has to pay those fines, which we need to close that out? Who has to file the certificate of compliance? These are all things that property owners struggle with on a regular basis. They're very important to do, and we won't give them that legal document that they can then turn around and pass off to some other entity and say this building complies with code and zoning until they satisfy us from that end.
What is your actual head count for inspectors for the 1.1 million buildings?
Okay. Our inspector budgeted head count, 594.
And how do you actually have on?
499 with 95.
490?
499.
499. Okay. So the comptroller found in his report that 88 buildings were without certificates of occupancy and also had received immediately hazardous violations. Are TCOs ever revoked on a building for these reasons, because of failure to maintain safe conditions? And does the city have a liability for hazards that arise during TCO periods?
From the revocation standpoint, I do believe we have the authority to revoke a TCO. That's the whole purpose is once we issue a final C of O, even DOB cannot set it aside. We would have to go to the Board of Standards and Appeals to set it aside. Is legally binding on everyone at that point, and we would have to go convince the Board of Standards and Appeals why the final CO should not be valid at that point. That's why we hold it in such strict regard from that standpoint. A temporary CO though, within 90 days it will expire and we will refuse to renew. And if we see hazardous conditions, one of the things that we hold over the property owner's head is we will not renew your TCO, not give you your legal rights associated with a CO unless you take action to correct these conditions. So that's why they have to pay outstanding fines and penalties. Payment of the penalties, though, also comes with, in some instances, you have to file the report that shows how you're correcting the action, such as the facade issues that were identified there. So it could be the reverse. It could be that the reason that the CO is not renewed is because the owner is still dealing with a very complex facade issue.
Okay. I just want to make note if anybody has any questions at this point. Okay. And we'll move on to the fire department. How are you, Chief?
I'm doing well, Chair Allen.
Good.
How are you?
Good. It's very important to me to know that there's continuity and communication between, say, building department and fire department. Would you say that there is a good communication that you have with the building department when you're going in to do your follow-up inspections?
I do. I mean, we collaborate and communicate all the time, and what's more, we're looking for additional ways to strengthen that, whether that's through verbal communication, through digital sharing of data. So we're always looking to improve that.
Thank you. And would you describe the process of how a building files a fire prevention plan? What are the components of that plan, and how the plan serves to protect occupants of the building?
Sure, certainly. So the fire protection plan, if you think about it, is the physical items that actually help to make a building, a typical building, more safe and support the safety of occupants and react in a safe manner during a fire or an emergency. So that fire protection plan is uploaded into Acela. That is our digital system that tracks everything. It's uploaded as a PDF. It goes to our emergency planning and preparedness unit. They will review it. And they'll look at everything. So right from, if you think about how a building is set out, the particular location of the building, the surrounding streets, it'll go inside, it'll look at, firewalls, fire partitions, stair pressurization, all these different inherent building features that help to make a building more particularly safe. It'll talk about what's the construction, what's the occupancy, and what's the expected occupancy load. And then the final part is really building systems, right? So it'll look at a whole laundry list of, the alarm system, the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, communication systems, areas of refuge, a whole laundry list that really builds a profile of how that building is going to be constructed, and it actually has come out of 109 out of the DOB construction code, how it's going to be constructed to be the most fire safe and emergency safe it can be.
Great, so, and that's all part of what you would need for your fire protection plan sign-off?
Correct.
And so, under what circumstances would you not renew or recommend to not renew a temporary restraining order? I'm sorry, a TCO.
So that's, we don't have a direct line into the TCO process, so we get everything from the client or the building applicant, and we review the fire protection plan. Sometimes it goes back and forth. There's letters of deficiency, change this, add this is missing, and then we will issue a letter of approval. Same thing if it's, say, a fire alarm system. So the applicant will file through our plan intake unit. They'll file a plan for a fire alarm system. We'll go back and forth. These need to be, letter of denial or letter of acceptance. Then they will issue or request a project authorization, which actually lets them actually put the fire alarm system within the building. Then they will go and come back to us again. They will request an inspection. We will send our fire alarm inspection team go out there, and if everything is good, we'll file a letter of approval at the end. All those different components is what the client actually needs to be able to apply to the Department of Buildings for the TCO.
Right, so that becomes all digitalized, and then it goes to the DOB, and then you decide so there is that interaction. So how many certificate of occupancies were granted during the past 3 fiscal years? And if you can break it down by borough and building type.
Okay. I'll give you the last 3 full fiscal years, and then what we have, I'm assuming this number is to date.
Thank you.
Sure. Fiscal year 22, 13,958. Fiscal year 23, 15,412. Fiscal year 24, 15,007. And fiscal year 25, 5,378.
Okay. And how many buildings currently have COs, and how many currently have TCOs?
I can get you the breakdown
Okay.
of what we issued for those years. How many buildings have final COs and TCOs citywide is a bigger question. That's, as I explained earlier, I think buildings built before 1938 are not required to have a CO unless they make any substantive change to their egress or change the use and occupancy of the building. So, for instance, a single-family home in Queens that built 1925 may never need a C of O from the buildings department
Right.
unless they do something significant. Our C of O records are largely, even though they are digitized by property, are largely still paper. They are unintelligent PDFs that you have to open and look at individually, and it is sometimes a legal debate as to what is the last issued final CO for a particular property. So citywide, we don't have that information yet, but that's part of the purpose of our digitizing our C of O process.
So, with the city of Yes, that recently passed for housing and development. What adjustments are you making? Because a lot of buildings are going to be going up, and we are going to need a lot more inspectors. We're going to need a lot more fire inspectors. We're going to have a lot of buildings going up and requesting temporary C of Os. There are going to be many different types of buildings, but most of them will be residential. So without any type of follow-up, which is what I'm hearing, without a complaint, like that could be a problem for bad actors to kind of skirt around the policies and procedures and put a building up, get a temporary C of O, and perhaps start putting people in before a C of O has been issued. How would you backtrack on that?
Well, I think there's a couple of different things that we're doing overall. I think number one is we are immediately starting at the plan exam phase where we are training our staff. We are also planning on doing training for the filing public as to what are the changes in City of Yes so that we get the right building in the right area from that standpoint as to what is allowed and not allowed by City of Yes. Then further, I think the digitized C of O process, the reason that we have all of these stats is because this is all data to us that we can share, we can parse down to understand what are the residential occupancies versus the COs that have residential occupancies versus commercial by different areas. We could see where complaints are coming in as well and maybe compare that with our C of O data. And I think, though, also from our standpoint, before we issue a TCO to a property, we are confident that the building is safe to occupy. We would not be letting people in if there were serious safety measures that are necessary to maintain the occupancy from that standpoint. You know, we are regularly and routinely pushing back on C of O applications when people are not ready and issuing objections. There's definitely a lot of back and forth that happens through the C of O process. And, the TCO could be that because the first half of the building is ready, but the second half has not been completed yet. So people can move into the first half, but not the second half. And as floors are added to the building, there may be no interconnection between the two or impact between the two. So it would be on a case-by-case basis, but I think our predictive analytics support there would be the best way to look at how are the City of Yes projects progressing as far as are we getting complaints? We can look at HPD complaints as well through this process if we are able to access their information and data. But I do think that it is also definitely every New Yorker's right to call 311 and let us know if they see something that they're not comfortable with from that standpoint. It will get to us. We will get an inspector out there from that standpoint and do an assessment. But the TCO expiration could be a data point that's explored as part of this to see if it is actually leading to issues in the residential realm.
Yeah, I think that we're just leaving a lot to chance, because if we're at 1.1 million buildings now, imagine what we'll be when the City of Yes becomes a reality. And are there any discussions of expanding Department of Buildings in any way, shape, or form with the administration, saying, we need more of more inspectors, we need more project manager, we need more people going out, we need more follow-up, and this kind of two-part question, you can answer that one, and then Chief, if you could just answer, where does the FDNY have discretion on what is needed for the sign-off, and can you at any point say this is not, because that was the whole issue with the Turkish issue where there wasn't complete fire protection in place, and I know that this is in court and you may not be able to answer, but I'm just making a point of it to say I wish that the fire department, who are the experts in all of these areas, just had a little more discretion and input when these inspections are being done. So what is your level of discretion?
So I think our level of discretion is really based on our subject matter expertise. So whether it's the fire alarm system, the fire protection plan, if there is, say, a range hood system that needs to be addressed in that particular building, auxiliary radio communications, the fire department leverages a lot of expertise and knowledge and technology to make sure that those systems are put in correctly, so that, and before we give sign-off to the applicant on any one of those, before they can even make that move to apply for a TCO, they have to sort of get through that, that sort of safety gateway, so to speak, before they can even apply for a TCO.
Okay. And any like word of growth for your department?
Yes,
because of the city of Yes.
Yes, that's what we were just conferring on. So we did receive 83 staff lines for the basement ADU expansion and 60 staff members for the proactive enforcement that we're describing. And I think overall, what you're describing is what we plan on doing with the staff, making sure that code and zoning compliance is taken into account, and that we're doing our best for enforcement. The whole purpose of us digitizing COs is to be able to use that as a data point to find out where to best utilize our staff.
All right. I'm good with questions. Nobody else has? If no one else has questions, then I want to thank you for coming here and testifying and being very informative and having really cohesive answers. And I'm sure that we'll be talking a lot more as the city of Yes progresses. Thank you so much for coming in today. And Josh, I will read now the public testimony or dismiss. Now we will open for the hearing for public testimony. I remind the members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant-at-Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant-at-Arms to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's oversight hearing topic. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant-at-Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of the close of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. For in-person panelists, please come up to the table once your name has been called. Now I will we'll call our first panelist, Christopher Leon Johnson. Yes. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Christopher Leon Johnson. Next up is this panel, Ms. Ariola. Just about 5 minutes ago, Brad Pander just complained about recently, kind of convenient that Brad Pander just complained about the temporary certificate occupancy for Turkish House, which is really ironic, and people are going to start asking, why Pander? You're campaigning on government time. You're using your government Twitter account to campaign for mayor by exploiting this whole panel here, this whole hearing today. But at the same time, you won't ever call out the nonprofits that do the same thing, that are working with your wife, that you allow $500 million to be funneled through them through the help of your wife. Brad, you need to look yourself in the mirror with that. Now, let's talk about this, right? Here's the thing with the certificate of occupancy is that there needs to be more real transparency of what goes on, of how these stuff being looked up. I believe that all TPO should be in front of the building and inside the building, the people just first see it in a bigger font. Now, people should be able to call the stuff. People should be able to report the stuff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As much as the fire department is open 24 hours, 7 days a week, they should be able to complain about this stuff. While at the same time that our borough presidents, all 5 borough presidents, should be held liable for this too, because they are the direct people to the access to the city and the public advocate office. I want to know why the public advocate didn't come for this. He's supposed to advocate for the people. Where is Jumani? Where's our public advocate? He didn't come out. He didn't even put a report for this. He didn't even put a report for this. The board president should be here too. I mean, hey, this is. I understand. Like, it's a lot of complex stuff with trying to get a certificate of occupancy, but there should be more bigger advocacy just as you, Joanne. You like the only person that's really calling this stuff out. But where's the other council members? Where are they at? So.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much for your
Thank you.
testimony and your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else in person or online, I think we can close our hearing today. I want to thank our committee counsel, Josh Kingsley, our senior analyst, Will Hongash, our executive director, Peter Spencer, my chief of staff and special advisor, Phyllis Incerillo, and our amazing technical team, as well as our great sergeants at arms and those who testified today. So thank you all for coming out.